This is Scott Spears, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Scott Spears Now, and this is going to be a treat. I got to tell you some things first, though. Coming up soon here on WGH, we are going to have the Big Nut Christmas Special. Now, as you can see, Big Nut is with us here. The Big Nut Christmas Special is coming up. You're not going to want to miss that for love nor money. I'm not going to tell you much more about that, but it is coming up. Our guest today, in this episode, is somebody I've wanted to have on for a long time. You see him at all the Ohio State games, near and far. He is the superfan, and probably the most recognizable superfan in Ohio State at this particular point, Now, I'll tell you a little story. I went up to a young guy, 20 years old, and I said to him, do you know such and such? Do you know such and such? And they were a little iffy, and I said, do you know Big Nut? And he said, that's the one I know. So it's such a pleasure to have in studio with me today, the Big Nut himself, John Peters. Big Nut, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you, Scott. I'm very honored and blessed that you asked for me to come down and see you, and I'm just happy to death that we're here.
Yeah. Big Nut, I want to start. Do you like to be called Big Nut or John?
Well, usually with the face paint, it's Big Nut, but you can call me whatever you like. Just don't call me late for supper.
There you go. Big Nut, let's start back in the beginning. Tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Well, I grew up on a dairy farm in Sandusky County in Fremont, Ohio, and we lived there until the age of 10, and then my mother remarried and moved up to Ottawa County, a little town called Greytown, and I graduated from Oak Carver High School, and then I ended up moving back to Fremont as I got out of high school and got a job, and so that's kind of like how that all began, and that's where I kind of like settled my roots in Fremont again, because I met my wife in Fremont, and we had children, and we were married and lived in Fremont.
When you were growing up, what did you want to be?
What did I want to be? Wow. Well, I definitely didn't want to be a Dalmatian on a fire truck. But, I guess I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to play baseball for the Cleveland Indians. I wanted to play football for the Cleveland Browns or for the Buckeyes, obviously. Everybody wanted to play for the Buckeyes. And it's just, that's a good question. I'm still trying to find what I want to be yet. Is there a time frame on this, a time limit?
Well, it's interesting because we have a couple interns here at the station, 20 and 22 years old, a boy and a girl, a man and a woman. And I always say to them, when did you know what you wanted to be? And, they're still trying to figure it out. I think that's what life is all about.
That is true. I want to be happy.
That's it.
And I'm finding that happiness in many ways, what I do in my life. I'm very blessed to have, I'm going on 42 years at Whirlpool Corporation in Clyde, Ohio.
Wow.
Of course, Mary knows something about Whirlpool.
We certainly do.
And I'm working on almost 40 years of a beautiful marriage to a wonderful young lady who's sitting here, First Lady Nut, Therese. And you know what? That just shows my dedication. To both, and in the same way about being a fan of the Buckeyes. It's God, family, and Buckeyes, and that's what we try to live by. And and I'm dedicated to the Buckeyes. Whether they win or whether they lose.
I run into so many people now, and I come up to kids and I say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And some of them will give you an idea of what they want to be, but I say, "Well, okay, why do you want to be that?" And it's always the money. What advice would you give to somebody who is picking a career, young person, because of how much that career might bring in for them?
I would tell them not to look at it in a monetary sense of value, because, that's just a piece of paper. Money does not make people happy. They think it does. And I suppose to some people it does make them happy, but I know in my life it's not about money. It's about paying for it and helping somebody else out and putting a smile on someone's face.
OSU, it came into your life as a child. When did it mean something more than a football team?
Wow, that's a good question. The funny thing is, growing up on a dairy farm back in Sandusky County, my grandfather was a graduate from Ohio State in agriculture in 1932. And I remember in Saturday afternoons doing chores out in the barn, he'd always have the game on the radio, and that's kind of like where I got my taste of the Buckeyes. And of course, they'd always have a replay on Saturday nights at late on Saturday night. I think it was a channel out of Bowling Green, maybe. But they always have a replay, and I remember Paul Warfield would be doing the replay of the game and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But then, then I realized when my grandfather took me to my first game in 1976, we had tickets for of all games, the game of games of all games. In Columbus, and that was my first taste of going to a Buckeye game, and I felt the electricity in the air and just the whole thing about the rivalry, and it was just so cool. But you know what really made it cool was not the score, because the Buckeyes lost that day. Do you remember the score?
In 76, I don't.
They lost 22-0. And that's something that I'll never forget, because that kind of sticks in your craw when the Buckeyes lose, especially that team up north. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll never forget that day, because it's the people you share the moment with, the time with. It's all about the people that you're around, and for me to spend that day with my grandfather, that's what made it really special.
Not to bring up a bad subject, but before we continue on with the history, because we're just coming off, we're taping this obviously in the Christmas season. We just came off the third loss to Michigan in Ann Arbor this year. What do you make of this stretch of losses, and particularly, what was this year's game like? Because Michigan led the entire game.
It was a stretch where I really felt that in the third quarter when we tied it up 17-17, I thought we were going to take control of it. And then, of course, we went down 24-17. But, that's a good question, Scott. They just didn't seem to control the tempo offensively and defensively. We just didn't do the job defensively either. Turnovers, it was a big part of it. Obviously, 2 interceptions. But moving forward, because you can't go back. Moving forward, things are changing down at the university in the football program, and we'll see where that leads us. Time will tell. Time always does.
What changes do you think will be necessary?
Well, obviously, first and foremost, the starting quarterback went into the transfer portal, and the transfer portal, what that's all about, and plus they've lost. It's in the teens now, the number of players, and most of them are backups, which I understand. They want to play somewhere and make a name for themselves and raise value or stock in their own selves for maybe the NFL draft. But when you start losing starters, that kind of to me is a red flag. I don't understand. Why would you want to leave the greatest program in college football to go somewhere else to play when you're already starting? So obviously there might be some other issues, internal issues. So my guess is there could be some movement within the coaching staff.
Well, that's an interesting point, because the last time Ohio State lost 3 in a row to Michigan was the mid-1990s.
Correct,
97, and John Cooper was gone not too long after that. After that, Jim Tressel had a very good record with Michigan. Certainly Urban Meyer had a great record against Michigan. Now we're at Ryan Day, 3 losses, and even former Ohio State football players during the game who supported Ryan Day by the time that game were over were saying, I believe, $9 million a year, and you've got to beat this team, and bro, you got to go. Look up that quote.
Well, for sure, Scott, that is one of the main criteria is when you take the job at The Ohio State University, that you better beat that team up north. That is one of the criteria, yes. However, do you want to go 1-11 and beat them, or go 11-1 and lose to them?
That becomes the question.
Well, yeah, that's a big question. But when you're overall 56 wins and 7 losses, it's really hard to just fire Ryan Day and say, hey, you're not doing the job. To a certain degree, you are doing the job, but yet to a certain degree, you're not. His winning percentage is great, but he is getting paid big money to win the big games, and that's I gotta believe. Unless there's a change between now and the spring game, which I don't think there will be in the head coaching position, next year would obviously be the 4th game that if they would lose, it would be 4th in a row, and it would be another home game. It's one thing when you lose up north on their field, but when you lose your home games, that's what hurts the most. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I just think that there's going to be some changes made.
What do you see for the rest of this year? What do you see through the end of January 2024?
Well, I think the Buckeyes are going to go out there and give Missouri a great game in the Cotton Bowl. Obviously, Missouri's no slouch because that's why they're playing in the bowl as well. But I'm sure Ryan Day will have the players that are as ready as much as possible, and they have depth in different positions. So I think it'll be interesting to see who starts the game, whether it be Devin Brown at quarterback or whether it be Lincoln. So.
This year at the Michigan game with so much going on, with Ohio State coming in there having lost to the game in Ann Arbor, Harbaugh not being allowed at the game, the whole sign gate scandal that was going on. What was the atmosphere like at that game?
Well, it was definitely intense. I mean, a great crowd. The mood or the attitude of the Wolverine Nation has changed since they now feel that they own the Buckeyes or are beating them now the last couple of years. Before they were somewhat quiet. Now they're very vocal, almost to the point where they can be very braggadocious or almost to the point where they're obnoxious.
To that point at this
yes.
point. Being a super fan, going in there, clearly people know where you stand. How do they treat you in Michigan at this point?
Well, the great thing about, when them two schools get together, there is a certain amount of respect. So, I mean, I do feel a respect from some of the fans. Some of the fans maybe not so much respect as they want to give me the raspberries or the rhubarb, as far as give me a hard time. But I'm kind of used to verbal abuse. But when they draw the line and cross that line when it becomes physical abuse, then that's wrong. And I had that happen to me years ago in Happy Valley.
Right. What happened?
Well, I was actually walking into the game. The Buckeyes were playing Penn State, and usually I have people around me, kind of like I look at them as bodyguards, and or security blanket, and they were walking with me, and they wanted to stop at this one tent in the middle of all of the sea of blue tents and have a drink. And one thing Big Nut does never do on game day, I never have a drink before or during or after a game because I just don't think it'd be a good idea because, if there's trouble in the crowd, especially in an away game, and, there's kind of a ruckus and there's an issue, the first thing they're going to say is, hey, it's that fat guy over there with the face paint. He's causing all this trouble. Get him out of here. So I think I'm kind of a target when I go to an away game. So therefore, I feel that it's important that I don't have alcohol in my breath. That's not a good thing, and it's not a good representation for John Peters, myself, because I'm not that big of a drinker, anyways. So it did, let the other people have their drinks. So, I said, guys, go ahead, have your drink, and I'm just going to go in the game because it's getting late, And they said, you're going to be all right. I said, yeah, I'll be fine. Well, as I was walking into the game, I heard this hut. And I coached football back in high school. I coached high school football in Fremont for a few years, and I knew right away what that meant. So I looked back, and you got to remember, it's a sea of people wearing this number 40 jersey. Back in the day, it was Dan Connor, who was a great player for Penn State. And this kid was at 3-point stance, and he took off like he was coming toward me. And as I'm walking toward the gate, I look back, and he's getting a little closer. I'm thinking, man, nothing's going to happen. He's just playing around, So as I'm walking, I continue to walk farther and farther. I look back again, and now he's getting closer. I'm thinking, okay, what's this guy going to do? So I turned. I kept walking and walking toward the gate, and lo and behold, the guy tackled me from behind. And now keep it in mind, this is after I had a knee replacement 6 months prior. And so, he was on top of me, so I pushed him off. He took off running. And I understand it was a night game. These kids it was probably a college kid for Penn State. They've been drinking all day, and so I got up. I walked. It's actually an older couple of Penn State fans come over, helped me up, and they were really apologetic about it. Felt really bad. So they helped me up, and so they said, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I walked into the game, and of course the Buckeyes won that night, and So I get back to the RV with some other Buckeye fans and explain what happened, and they say, well, did you fight? Did you like call the cops? And I said, listen, this is my first time in Happy Valley. I said, I have no idea where the cops were even at. I said, and I could identify this guy anyways. He was wearing a number 40 jersey. There was 1,000 people wearing a number 40 jersey. So, but I said, you know what though? I told everybody in the RV. I said, if that would have been, if the shoe would have been on the other foot, and if I would have witnessed a Buckeye fan tackling somebody like that, the opposing fan, I would have went up and I would have told him. I said, listen, that's just totally wrong. I don't care if you're a fan of the Buckeyes or a fan of the other teams. You show good sportsmanship, and it was just a very unfortunate situation, and so I didn't go back for a couple of years. It's well documented that the OSU marching band didn't go for a long period of time too, for certain reasons. But I started going back again because I just felt I needed to be there to support our team. And I've been going back ever since and never had a problem.
Just one more thing to touch on here in current times. This whole thing with the sign stealing and Harbaugh being suspended for 3 games, what did you make of that whole issue?
Well, I think if it's valid, if there's some validity to the whole story of what was going on, which it sounds like there is some validity to it, then it's just totally wrong, because you're changing the integrity of the game. It's the integrity of the game. You're messing with it, and that's not right. That's totally wrong. Because like I said, I coached 7th grade football in high school at Fremont St. Joe and at Fremont Ross both, and there has to be a certain amount of respect for both teams, for that game. No matter whether it's 7th grade or high school, varsity or college or pros. I think it's wrong. I mean, as you know, there have been people that have been banned for life in baseball. And, of course, we all know Pete Rose has been banned for life, supposedly messing with the integrity of the game that he bet against his own team. And I just think when you mess with the integrity of the game, it's wrong. It's just a very unfortunate thing. Now, obviously the Big Ten is not doing anything about it. They have kind of washed their hands of it, but we're still waiting to see what happens with the NCAA investigation.
It's interesting, and it'll all play out, and we'll see what happens as time goes on.
Well, the fans have had a lot of fun with it, though. I mean, as far as all the different memes out there and the signs on game day and stuff like that, it's been quite a topic of conversation.
Do you think it's hurt Harbaugh forever? Do you think he'll ever be able to run this down at this point?
That's a good question, Scott. Boy, I tell you, that's something that'll probably stick with him for the rest of his life. Now, whether he stays, with that team up north, or whether he decides to go back to the pros, who knows?
I want to come back to where you were. How did you decide to become a super fan? How does Big Nut come to be?
Well, it's kind of like, see, I would rather be known as a super humanitarian versus a super fan. And people can call me whatever they want. That's fine. Whatever makes them happy. Because that's what it's all about. As you say, a super fan is making people happy, and that's what we do by paying forward with our scholarship program for kids that are going to attend the Ohio State University. We have an endowment at the university. We have now we have an endowment at the county that we live in, Sandusky County. We have an endowment, and we also have an endowment now. We just started in Ottawa County, which is adjacent to Sandusky County, for more scholarships. Any way we can help these kids out for college at Ohio State, then my God, we're gonna raise the money and do it for them. And my goal is to maybe someday raise $1 million before I pass on. But that when that day comes, whatever we raise is what we raise, and hopefully it's a lot for the kids. And it's not what you take with you when you leave this world; it's what you leave behind. And if you can touch someone's life in a matter of just a couple seconds, or maybe by giving them a $500 scholarship to touch their life in a positive way, then our job is complete.
Very, very important. How did the outfit come to be?
Oh, baby steps.
Yeah,
Baby steps.
yeah.
It all started. Well, it all started in locally in a best dress contest in 1995. It was the Ohio State beat Michigan tailgate party, but put on by the Fremont Ross High School, and we were involved with it. And it was a best dress contest, and it was all over a basket of cookies in 1995. And it's funny because we won the basket of cookies in '95. Well, then in '96, the grand prize was going to be a Buckeye snowman for which I'd love to win for my man cave, which is about 3 foot high. And it's funny because that's what I needed to do, something different. No face paint the first year with cookies, but I had to do something different. I knew because that first year I was up against all these little old ladies and younger ladies too, and some guys. But they all had this, and if I was a judge, I would have voted them the winner, the grand prize winner. But I won based on what I wore, my crazy Buckeye clothing. But they had the fancy stitched cardigan sweaters, the fancy stitched pants. I mean, they were like, wow. And to this day, some of them women, they always remind me. They say, "Hey, Big Net, back in '95." I still think I should have won. I said, "You're right. You should have won because I would have voted for you." But in '96, we had to do something different. So to win that 3 foot high Buckeye snowman for my man cave, that's when First Lady bought these paint sticks at the local costume shop on a wood base, and you put them in a glass of water, and you smear scarlet and gray on my face, and that's what it kind of began. So I won that year in '96, the snowman for my man cave. It's down in my basement. And then the following year, they did another Buckeye snowman. I won that one as well. So I won 3 years in a row. Well, then the event kind of subsided after so many years. And then on the Buckeye Trail in the championship game out in Tempe against Miami, which would have been January of 2003, it would have been the 2002 championship season. That's when we decided to do it. We didn't know if we'd do it. We took the paint along. We didn't know if we'd do it for the game. So we did it the day before for the pep rally, and that was like an eye-opener for me. It was like after the pep rally was over, I had all these people come up. These kids would come up and wanted their picture taken with me. And then I had older people in wheelchairs. I had a guy with a walker, a person with a cane. Young and old, all alike. It didn't matter, age, whatever, man or woman, and they wanted their picture taken. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm just a fat guy with face paint. I'm thinking, what's the big deal? Well, so we thought, well, we'll do it for the championship game. And then I was very blessed that they happened to show us in the overtime session. And that's kind of like when, my nickname was Pigskin Pete. But the Big Net kind of came about. That was from First Lady. First Lady called me a Big Net one time. I had a foam brick. I threw it at the TV. I was so mad at the Buckeyes. She goes, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Quit acting like a big nut," And then I thought, well, that's kind of a good name for me. I mean, I'm a big guy. I thought, well, I am a big nut, I guess. And so that's kind of how the Big Nut thing started. On the Buckeye Trail.
And how did it come to be that you would start going to most games, every game?
Well, we had season tickets for Cleveland Indians baseball games for about 12 years, and I was on the list on the Buckeye list through the Buckeye Club for season tickets. So I never got called. And then I finally got a call. I said, "Hey, are you still interested in season tickets for Buckeye games? Because you're on the list. We finally got to you on the list." I said, "Yeah." So that was kind of a no-brainer. Do I keep my season tickets for Indians games, or do I keep my season tickets for Buckeye games? I'm going Buckeyes. I mean, I've always been a Buckeye fan my whole life, and I'm still an Indians fan to this day, as you noticed, Indians fan. Mm-hmm. And so I just think, because I'm old school, Scott, there's some things I just have a hard time.
You're sticking with it.
I can't let go of it. I can't. I'm sticking. I'm an Indians fan till the day I die. So. But I mean, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to have season tickets for the Buckeye game, so we got season tickets for the Buckeye game, and we've had them now for over 20 years, and that's kind of how that all started.
What is it like to go to the game like this, looking this way?
I don't know.
Fun?
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun.
When
it's
people
fun for
approach you and want the pictures.
That's something that you'd have to ask them what they think, because you're going to get all kinds of answers all across the board, and you know what, young, old, man, woman, any kind of whatever religion they are. It doesn't matter. What I mean, I don't. I guess the bottom line is I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to be John Peters. I'm going to be the Big Nut. That's who I am. If you love me, that's fine. If you don't love me, that's fine too. Listen, I've got family members that I love, and they love me. I've got family members that don't love me, and I'm so fond of them. So I totally understand it. I mean, I would say 99% of the Buckeye Nation has opened their arms up to us and welcomed us into the Buckeye Nation, and they love us. There's always the 1%, but that's okay, because you know what? It's like this. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And you know what? It's the same way with when you go to church. We all got to bow before the glory of God, and He wants us to take the sacrament with Him. Not everybody does, and that's okay. To each his own. And that's how I feel about the Big Nut. To each his own. You can accept me, or you don't have to accept me. That's okay. You're not going to offend me either way. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you do or you don't. And I just want to put a smile on your face. And if I didn't put a smile on your face, then I didn't do my job as the Big Nut and as a Christian, because we all have a sense of discipleship in this world, and it's important to kind of extend the olive branch, and if you don't want to partake, I'm not going to force it on you, so.
How long does it take you to get ready for a game?
Oh, well, that's a good question there. It depends on First Lady Nut, if she's in a good mood or a bad mood. Back in the day, 4 o'clock in the morning could be kind of a not too good of a mood, versus maybe 4 in the afternoon for a night game. But, when she was in a good mood, an hour and a half. Bad mood, probably close to 2 hours. Now she's scaled it down to a little over an hour now. She's done a great job. And she kept saying, "I can't do this. I can't do that." I said, "Yes, you can. Yes, you can." And she's done a great service on the Big Nut. And but she threatens me. You got to understand. I mean, some people think I'm Ohio State's #1 fan. I'm not even #1 in my own house. Okay, I'm #2. And she reminds me. She goes, "Listen, I brought the Big Nut into the world. I can take him out." So
yeah, there you go.
So hey, you got to know where your place is in this world. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's what I love about game day is there's over 100,000 Buckeye fans in the shoe, over 100,000 strong, and you can take all these Buckeyes and lay them in your hand, and each Buckeye is different. You look at each Buckeye is different. They're none identical, but you put them in your hand and you bring them all together on game day. Over 100,000 strong, they come together in one in spirit. That's amazing.
Is it comfortable to wear these items?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
No problem there.
No, not at all. Sometimes my neck gets a little sore. Sore if if I go a double strand. Sometimes like I wear the double strand for homecoming weekend for the homecoming game. And certain occasions I'll wear a double strand of Buckeyes, but not usually. Sometimes my neck gets a little sore, but I mean, you know what? That's where I got to suck it up, because you know what? And usually on my neck decal, and I didn't wear neck decals tonight, but on game day, and it's funny because I didn't, because the most expensive part of my whole entire is probably the neck decals, because they're kind of expensive. They add up. But I always put Brutus right here under my chin, because I want to feel Brutus's pain. Because if Brutus takes it on the chin, I want to take it on the chin.
Take it on the chin as well. We're coming up on a break here, but we're coming back with Big Nut himself, a super humanitarian, and we're going to learn a lot more and see some items from his personal collection right after this. Hey, Scott Spears back here on Scott Spears Now. Such a pleasure to be with you, and I do want to let you know the Big Nut Christmas special is coming up, so stay aware and stay paying attention. Pay attention to everything going on, because you're not going to want to miss that for love nor money. Now, we've got some very interesting things to talk about here with our guest this hour, Big Nut John Peters. And one is this necklace, which I'm going to put on, which Big Nut gave me during the break there. Now, Big Nut, I didn't do very well with the quiz, okay. but it's here, thank goodness. How did this come to be? How did passing out the necklaces?
Well, it was kind of started our Pay Forward program. We've got friends of ours who had a tailgate party, and we would go to the tailgate party, and we wanted to give something out to somebody for free, nothing at all. Because we would see people down Lane Avenue selling stuff, pocketing money and all that, and that kind of turns me off, So we started making Buckeyes. We collect them because actually my great-great-grandfather planted some Buckeye trees on property that now me and my sister own, that we collect from. And then we also have Buckeye trees in our yard, and people have Buckeye trees everywhere in their yards, and they'll call us and we go collect Buckeyes. So this past year we collected over 80,000 Buckeyes, which was about an average year.
80,000.
A little better than last year, but they go in cycles every so many years. That you get more, you get less. But I wanted to make a Buckeye necklace and give it to somebody, and for nothing, for free. And they looked at me like, well, why? And it's like, so we would go to the tailgate party. We hand out Buckeye necklaces. We'd do like maybe 10 or 20, and they try to give us money, and no, it's our gift. It's a gift from us to give to you, for you to remember that. If you go buy something somewhere, you ain't gonna remember. I mean, after so many years. But if somebody gives you something, you always remember that. So we were making Buckeye necklaces, giving them away, and so we kept turning down, the money. And they would say, well, hey, Big Nut, will you come over to our tailgate party and give us a necklace and all that stuff, And so we would do that, and give necklaces away. And so they kind of outsmarted us, Scott. Instead of giving us cash, they would write a check to John Peters. Now, keep it in mind, we weren't doing Big Nut on the necklace. It was just all Buckeyes. So they would give us a check, and I thought, I don't want this check, but I didn't want to be rude. Now I didn't want to just tear it up and give it back to them and be rude. So we took the checks home. So we started a separate account. And we put these checks in a separate account. It wasn't our money. We didn't feel right. It was to take it. It didn't belong to us. So I was downtown one day at the local athletic supply store. Bob Hammer, the former owner now, we were talking, and I said, Bob, do you have any ideas? I said, I think we're going to give this money to either cancer research, but there's so many people out there giving money to cancer research, or we thought about maybe Alzheimer's or diabetes foundation. And he said, well, why don't you start a scholarship program? I said, you know what? That's a great idea, Bob. I never thought about that. So we took the baby steps. We went through the thing. It took over a year. We got a hold of our local. He said, maybe I ought to think about a 501c3, and so okay. And so that's when we became a 501c3 nonprofit. We got had it all done through the local attorney in Fremont, Jim Ellis. And of course, Jim Ellis later on became the mayor of Fremont, and he's no longer the mayor, but he still practices law. But so we thought, well, we'll just, we'll put this money in an account these people give us, and we'll start a scholarship program. And Jim Ellis is the one that said, well, you should, become a 501c3. So okay. So it took us over a year, and finally it happened, and this is in 2011. And then we gave out our first scholarships in 2012 locally to Fremont Ross, where our children went to school, and to Fremont St. Joe, SJCC, where First Lady went to school. And we gave a scholarship each for $500 out there. And I wanted to do something for Oak Harbor High School in Ottawa, kind of for my alma mater. So the next year we did Oak Harbor, which was the third scholarship. And I thought, well, you can't do an odd number. This is the life of the Big Nut. He's always got to push the envelope, right? Mm-hmm. So so we had to do a fourth scholarship. So let's get every school in Sandusky County involved. They can apply for it, one scholarship, and then somebody. So we gave out 4 scholarships in 2013. Because, like I say, in 2011, we had it created. It was too late to give out scholarships that year, so we gave out 2 in 2012. And in 2013, we gave out 4. Well, we started giving out more Buckeye necklaces, and now we're up to we give out over 50 per game. We do them outside the game, the shoe. We do them inside the horseshoe on game day, during timeouts, during halftime or in between the quarters. We give them away. And to this day, that'll never change. That's our pay forward program. We will never give out a Buckeye necklace on game day for Buddy, for ourselves. And now we do farmers markets in Fremont, and we do sell them, and that all goes to the scholarship. for the kids 100%.
And speaking of the scholarship fund, we have some great items here we want to talk about. We have the Vanilla Butternut Big Nut Scholarship Fund popcorn.
Correct.
Tell us about this, Big Nut.
Well, it's from Great Lakes Popcorn in Port Clinton, Ohio. It's fabulous. It's great popcorn, great quality, and also that's the newest edition. And then before that, we also did Big Nut Pickles and Big Nut Barbecue Sauce. The Big Nut Pickles are made down in Butler, Ohio, south of Loudonville, by an Amish woman. And also the barbecue sauce is made in Bucyrus, Ohio, at Cooper's Mill. And all 100% of the proceeds from that go to the scholarship for kids who attend The Ohio State University. We are in over 30 stores in Northwest Ohio. And we were not online. We do everything through Facebook. We have a list of all of the stores that sell it, and we go pick it up. The pickles we pick up in Butler, Ohio. We go to Bucyrus, pick up the barbecue sauce and the popcorn. We got an order already in for next week. We got to pick up, and then we distribute it ourselves personally to the stores. And the stores have been phenomenal. Great supporters of our scholarship program and our idea for the kids for college. So please get on board and buy the products if you can. And like I say, it's on Facebook and it's on Big Nut for Buckeyes on Facebook, our fan page, and also the Big Nut Scholarship Fund page as well. And all the list of the stores will be on there.
Now, if people want to buy these now, holiday time coming up, birthdays, things of that nature, what would be the cost for these items?
Well, the barbecue sauce would be $5.99 for a jar of barbecue sauce. The jar of pickles is $6.99, and the popcorn is $6.
Now, are these items you all enjoy?
Now, that is our cost. That's what we charge.
What you put into it.
Correct. That's
Right.
what we put into it, and so that's all that goes to the scholarship. Now, what the stores sell them for, I have no control over that. They sell them for whatever they sell them for.
Now, do you like these items? Are you fans of these items?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yes.
I would highly recommend them. Obviously, I have to limit my intake on them because I'm diabetic. There's plenty of sugar in the barbecue sauce and the pickles. There's a certain amount of sugar content, and as the caramel corn. But I have tried. If you're not gonna promote it, then I mean, if you don't try it all, and if you don't like it, then don't promote it. Just like the Big Nut. If I feel like I got a bad product here with the Big Nut, I'm not going to promote it. But you know what? Big Nut is Big Nut is more than just an image. I think Big Nut is more a spirit than I guess I'd classify Big Nut as.
Well, what a great thing for the holiday season, or just somebody's birthday, or for the big game coming up. The bowl games that come up. I mean, it's nice to buy items like these and know that they are going for a very, very, very good cause.
Absolutely. And we wouldn't do it if it wasn't for a good cause.
Absolutely. Was there any particular reason it was these items? Barbecue sauce, pickles, and popcorn?
It started with the pickles because Wilma, she has, she's licensed through the state of Ohio. We are actually, our garage is a licensed warehouse with the state of Ohio, where we store our product. And her pickles are phenomenal. Her lime pickles, what drew me to her pickle. The flavor is like a sweet tart, and my aunt and uncle would go down to the Amish country, and her name is Wilma Hirschberger, and her business is called Hirschberger Cannery, and so I went to Hirschberger's down in by Berlin, and they had no idea what I was talking about. It was not the same family, not the same Hirschberger. So my aunt and uncle got up there in age and they quit going down the Amish country, so I couldn't get the lime pickles anymore. So we went with some friends of ours a couple years ago down there. We went to Miller's Bakery. I've never been there before. Miller's Bakery. I don't know if you ever heard of Miller's Bakery.
I have heard of Miller's Bakery.
Never even knew it existed. We walked in there and there they were, the lime pickles. And come to find out, I thought, well, this is not too many people know this, Scott. Now, just between you and me.
Between you and me.
Yes. So my idea was, why drive all the way to the Amish country to buy lime pickles for myself if I could find out where she lives and go, or where she makes them, and go right there and buy them from
Right
her.
to the source.
It'd save. I figured it'd save maybe half the distance of the drive, you know. But there was one other thing here in the back of my mind that and it has not come to fruition yet, and that is, if I go to this woman and buy her pickles, maybe if I become friends with her and get to know her, not on a business aspect, because I wasn't going to be marketing pickles, but I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, I could convince her to let me come in and sit down and have a dinner, a nice Amish meal at her kitchen table, because I hear people do that all the time, and I've never done that. And I thought that'd be really cool, you know. Well, that hasn't happened yet, but we have exchanged items for Christmas though before. Like First Lady will make this sour cream and raisin pie. It's amazing. It's very sweet. It sounds kind of I don't know, but trust me, it's amazing. And so we made a pie for her. She gives us some Amish cheese and stuff like that, you know, as a Christmas gift. And but you know, I'm still working on the fact that maybe I'm keeping my fingers crossed that maybe she'll make us a nice Amish meal in her house.
Now, the barbecue sauce, is this best for chicken, ribs, kind of a dipping sauce, or all the above?
I would say all the above. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I'm a rib guy.
Yeah.
And I eat my share of chicken too. Let's face it, Big Nut is not afraid to eat anything. I mean, listen, I should say anything. I do draw the line, okay? Now, you might find this crazy, but you give me a good livered onion dinner, I'll take that any day over a piece of chocolate cake or a brownie.
Some people love liver. Some people just
I love
it,
liver.
and then other people, there's no middle ground with liver.
No, and I'm telling you what, you go to, once a year, they have this liver dinner up in Custer, Ohio. And Gigi, she makes the best liver, and it's put on by the Legion there. And I'm telling you what, it's phenomenal. Her liver is amazing, and I'll drive. It's over an hour drive for me just to go eat liver. But you know what? It's crazy because people love First Lady Nuts brownies. They love them. She makes a great brownie, and you know what? I won't touch them. I'll take them to a potluck. I'll take them to work because I know I'm not eating none of them because I don't like brownies and I don't like chocolate cake. See, when we go on the road, when we travel. Me and First Lady, every restaurant we go to, two things we ask for. Do you have bread pudding for dessert, or do you have carrot cake? Count me in.
You know, I've recently went on a thing about bread pudding. It's weird you mentioned that, and I found some at Der Dutchman, and then two people have made it locally for me. And boy, there is nothing like some good bread pudding.
Absolutely. Amen. Hit the rock on that.
There we go.
There
bread
we go.
pudding.
Absolutely.
Bread pudding. Now, is there a recipe that you have that you use any of these items for? A sandwich you make? Anything in particular?
The pickles I just eat right out of the jar.
Just right out of the jar.
Yeah, but I really don't eat them because that means you know my sugar levels go up.
Well, I want to get to this.
And I got to be careful.
This is important because people who have watched you have seen a dramatic weight loss. You've said 100 pounds, 100 pounds. In what amount of time?
Well, I would say it's probably been a 4.5-year plan.
How did this come to be? Why did this start? How did this start?
Well, I had a heart-to-heart conversation with my doctor, and when he did all the speaking and I did all the listing, then he didn't say Big Nut. He said, John, he says, you got to do something. He says, you got to do it now because you're going to die. Just pure and simple, you're going to die. Not next year, next month. You're going to die soon. He says, you need to do something, you know, at my age. And so he wanted me to have the bariatric surgery, and I refused. But I was open-minded enough to listen to what they had to say. So we went over to Wood County Hospital over Bowling Green. We listened to what the doctor had to say. And, you know, with a bariatric surgery, you gotta lose X amount of weight, and you got to keep it off for like up to a year. And then once you've shown them that you can do that, then you sign the paper and you have the surgery. There's like 4 different processes or procedures. So we listened to them, and my insurance, at work, my insurance covered the meeting. Went to the meeting, but then we also seen a nutritionist, and I was never really big into nutritionists. I think they're kind of like I don't know. I mean, they're like physical therapists, you know. They think they're God. They think they know everything, and you know what? My God, First Lady Nut is a physical therapist. That's why I married her. They do know what they're talking about. Well, I took a lot of advice from the nutritionist lady, and so I lost probably 35, 40 pounds. And
By doing what?
By just cutting back on my carbs, cutting back on my sugars, consuming protein. That's the key. Consuming more protein, but portion control. Well, you gotta cut back on your quantity. Listen, I still dig into the jar of peanut butter and pork rinds. I mean, but we all have our vices, But I mean, portion control and just cut back on quantity, and eat more salads. And I got into the vinaigrettes and the oils in my salad, and I was never a salad person. I'm meat and potato, baby. Come on. I mean, it's like. I've talked about this in award ceremony meetings about, don't be the parsley on the plate, okay? Be the meat and potato. Well, I got too much meat and potato. So to make a long story short, I lost about 40 pounds, and then it came time to sign that paper. And I told First Lady, I said, you know what? I'm not going to have it done. I said, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So that's what we've been doing. But the problem is that you don't want to get to that desired weight. And because once you get to that weight, what happens? You start to go back up again, and so it's got to be a lifelong change. It cannot be a thing for 6 months, a year, 2 years, or 4 years. And trust me, I have my struggles where I hit a certain plateau, and it takes me longer to get over that plateau. But I'm doing it. It hasn't been easy, but I have to remember protein. Consume a lot of protein and cut back on the carbs and sugars. And you know what? Protein to water has been my saving grace.
Now, for people who might not understand, when your doctor said you were going to die, was this a complication of the diabetes, issues with the heart? What was his big concern?
The diabetes, just being diabetic and knowing the outcome of what happens down the road. You start losing, body parts or whatever, and it's just not a good thing, being diabetic. So I really have to keep it under control, and I've probably gone off half of my medications.
Now, see, that's an important.
And I never taken insulin though. I never got to that point where I was taking insulin.
Now, what do you think the cause was? Just simply losing weight that got you off these medications? What kind of medications were they?
Well, you have to ask First Lady. She's my doctor. Yeah. So.
But blood pressure?
Blood pressure. Oh yes.
Cholesterol.
Cholesterol. Yeah. Well, yeah. I've never. That's crazy. No. When I was on the heavier side at the most, it's crazy. My cholesterol went from 131 to about 140, 145.
Oh, really?
That it must be hereditary. It's in my blood. Yeah. I've never had high cholesterol.
That's not bad. No.
No, I've been very fortunate. So.
And where would your insulin levels run?
I don't know as far as insulin, but my A1C was well over 7.
7. And
it's down to 5.4 now.
Wow.
So that's not too bad.
Not too bad at all. Now, do you feel better?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, my joints, my joints still bother me because I was on Celebrex, and Celebrex is for your joint pain, right? Well, that might have been the thing where the doctor said you need to do something because my Celebrex was telling me my kidneys were not functioning 100%. He says, you got to get off Celebrex. I said, well, Doc, you put me on the Celebrex. So, it's kind of a catch-22 here. You put me on it. So after 6 years of being on it, I've been off of it now for over a year. And trust me, my joints ache and sore, but there's a trade-off here. I would rather have sore and achy joints than to have kidney failure, So my kidney function went back to normal. They're fine. Thank God, knock on wood on that. And but so I have achy joint problem, but you know what? You just learn to deal with it. It's like when our starting quarterback throws an interception in the first quarter, they score off it. You just deal with it. You move on. You got to overcome it, and that's what we do. We try to overcome the joint pain. But I do feel better in some ways. But I felt fine before. I mean, it's a matter of it's mind over matter. It really is. It's your outlook on life, And you know what? I'm blessed.
Are you a happy person?
I am happy.
Where does that come from?
I think God, my faith, because you know what, and that's what these kids today lack. You know, you see it in the schools, you see it. You don't see it in the churches because the churches are 90% empty. You know, in some churches, as they call that, frost on the pew, I guess. But you got to be fed with the spirit of what God wants you to do. God put everyone on this earth. Your purpose is what you're doing. You know, everyone's has a purpose. Unfortunately, a lot of people have never find their purpose. You know, and that's sad. Maybe my purpose is not being the big nut. My purpose is to make people happy. You know, and that's what I want to do. I want to put a smile on your face. I mean, you know, you take the little things for granted. You know, like, how's your day going? Best day ever. You know, because why? Because I woke up. Because the thing is that I've had friends that never woke up the next morning. And you know what? It's important that you know, you wake up. It's important to go out there and do God's work.
There are so many people who get up in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to face the day. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. What do you say to those people?
Find God. You know, rise above. You know, you gotta rise above it. I mean, it's easy just to shut down and just, you know, lay around and, you know, eat a bag of potato chips all day long and every day. You know, and you don't, why destroy yourself? Why we're here for a short time. We are. That's why I say it's not what you take with you. It's what you leave behind. We're all here for a very short time in our life. So let's make the most of it. You know, I mean, it's funny because you don't want to remember the negative things out there, you know, that you encounter, because everybody goes through good times, everybody goes through bad times. You know, I've got my share of bad times, and you know what? Nobody wants to hear them because they want to hear the positive. Let's go, baby. You know, let's pick it up. You know, let's be proud as you know, as Christians and as Buckeyes. You know, we all have a sense of responsibility. We really do, and I full-heartedly mean that. You know, whether you're helping somebody you know, mow their yard or walking them across the street, helping them with a bag of groceries, or you're sitting there on game day in the horseshoe, you got a responsibility as a Buckeye fan. You know, to be loud, to be proud. You know, show good sportsmanship, but cheer your team on to victory. Because you know what, we have to be that 12th man in the crowd. And that's why, you know, some people call me a cheerleader. Well, hey, I love it, you know. I want to be a cheerleader. That's why cheerleaders aren't seen in the top row of the upper deck. Cheerleaders have to be down front and low, and they got to get that crowd. I mean, I turn my back into the field, you know, during timeouts, in between quarters. I'm looking up at the crowd, and I'm yelling, "Let's go!" Okay. You know, the team, whether it's on my end of the field, inside the 10 or 20 yard line, I'm getting the crowd. Let's go Bucks, or you know, let's get loud, or whether at the other end of the field, I'm saying let's go Bucks, and trying to get the crowd cheering, and hopefully, one person can make a difference. One person, and hopefully that it permeates. All of a sudden, it gets louder and louder, and before you know it, maybe it goes all the way around. I don't know. I'm hoping, okay? All you can do is hope. And I'm hoping it goes all the way around and the whole crowd is saying, let's go Bucks. And that energy gets to them players, and they rise and make that play and score that touchdown, you know, and win the game, make a difference.
For people who are watching this right now, or who might see you in public, or for people who see you on television or at the games, what's something they would be surprised to learn about you that they don't know?
That I don't like chocolate cake. I don't like brownies. Give me a good liver and onion dinner. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Buckeye graduate. You know, this is a form of healing for me as well. Our scholarship program, it's about healing, and this heals me because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay, I'm not going to have that honor and that privilege of walking across that stage and receiving a diploma from The Ohio State University. It's not going to happen for this guy, okay? But if I can go out and influence somebody to get them to go to Ohio State and give them a scholarship, and they have to apply for the scholarship. If they apply, and our committee, we have a committee, and if they choose that person, okay, and they go there and get a degree, it's a form of healing for me, because I knew that I had a minute impact on that person's life, where they walked across stage and received that diploma, something that I never received, and that means the world to me. That I could give them something that I couldn't have myself. You know, I mean, let's just say, when we select, our committee gets together and select the winners, it's the happiest day of my life. It's the saddest day of my life. People don't understand. It's the happiest day because I know somebody's going to receive a scholarship that's going to attend Ohio State. It's sad because there's more kids that apply that do not receive a scholarship. And a good friend of mine who's on the committee, who's a Buckeye graduate, who's a former ag teacher at Oak Harbor High School, Louis Damschroeder, phenomenal, biggest Buckeye fan I know. And he says, John, he says, look at it this way. He says, you know what? He said, you feel that, you know, you're happy, but you're sad. But you know what? Every one of them students are all going to go to Ohio State. They're all going to receive an education at Ohio State. They're all going to be a winner. So, you know, and that helps me ease the pain of knowing that they can't win win our scholarship personally, but they're all going to get an education. They're all going to be Buckeyes.
For people who feel like they know you because they see you on television and they see you around, finish this sentence. Big Nut is. How would you describe? Finish that sentence.
Wow. Big Nut is love. I just love everybody. Even ones that don't love me. That's okay. I love you. You know. I mean. You know, it's funny because, I wear purple to our high school games. I'm a Fremont Ross. Here again, I'm not a Fremont Ross graduate. I'm an Oak Harbor graduate, but I'm a little giant at heart because I grew up in Fremont. My grandfather took me to the games and watched guys like Rob Lido and Bob Brzezinski play. You know, Bob went to Ohio State. Rob went to that team up north, both All-Americans. And that was another reason why he took me to that game in '76 to see both of them play. And it was kind of ironic, you know, Rob had a great game that day against the Buckeyes. But you know what, though? I mean, I got to know Derek Eisman, who played for the Buckeyes, and of course, Tony Gant played for that team up north. But you know what, though? I wear my purple to Fremont Ross games. And people have called me Barney because, you know, I love you, you love me, or, you know, and it's just kind of comical, you know.
Well, with about a minute left, how would you like to be remembered?
As a good-hearted person that paid forward and helped kids out for college, that to me means a lot to me. You know,
great items here for that scholarship program from the Big Nut, and remember the Big Nut Christmas special coming up here on this station. You're not going to want to miss it. For Big Nut, it's so great to have you here. This has been a very interesting conversation.
Well, I think so, Scott. And, you know, and that's why I wear my pink. The month of October, it's breast cancer awareness, and cancer is a very terrible thing. And, you know, we got to kick cancer because it affects not just women, but it affects men too. Everybody in their family. Yeah.
For the Big Nut, this is Scott Spears heading for the dugout.